This conference will now be recorded.
Mamta Ben, we start?
Yeah, let's start.
Okay. Yeah, hello friends. There is number of amendment made to the boost our Indian economy by the Srimati Sritaraman in the year 2019-20 to take the GDP growth to the 5 trillion by 2024. But due to COVID-19, a world facing a tremendous slowdown, even affect the Indian economy also. But Indian economy has strength to overcome this difficulty by making this difficulty as a great opportunity. This is relief and reporting part also strengthened under Section 129 of the Schedule 3 of the Companies Act. To cover all such issue, a learning session under Learner by Profession for the Profession 14th session issue in Schedule 3 and amendment under Companies Act will be taken by our own professor speaker CA Mamta Seth. I feel glad to introduce CA Mamta Dipen Seth as. She has qualified as a chartered accountant in year 2007, associated with RJ Luthia and Associate since 2007 only, practicing under firm name style of Mamta Seth and Associate under chartered accountants, practicing corporate audits and specialized field, member of corporate law committee of the WSC in the year 2019-20, delivery talks at student training organized by a group of chartered accountants firms, delivery talk of KDO Chartered Accountants Association on ICDA-DS. Delivery talk organized by Well Women Enterprises Learning to Lead on ICDS. Delivery talk on reporter at RRC Vidyapat 16 organized by Ghatkopar CP Study Circle jointly with Mulund CP Study Circle on associated case studies on income tax. Also, the same RRC 2017 organized by Ghatkopar and Mulund CA Study Circle at Ahmedabad on associate case studies on Corporate Companies Act. Here now from CA Mamta will take over the charge of this session. Thank you, CA Mamta. Mamta Ben.
Thank you, Yogesh bhai.
Arpit.
At the outset, I'll start now. At the outset, I want to thank you, Charvik and Bhavin bhai, for giving this opportunity. Related to, I will be taking today issues under reporting of Schedule 2. It is not actually issue. It can be taken as few disclosure requirement, which is generally given in the Schedule 3 itself, or maybe in the notes of the Schedule 3, or maybe under Companies Act, or if we'll go through the guidance note of the ICAI, where it is clearly given that these are the basic I'll not say the mistakes, or maybe we are forgetting to report in the notes to accounts, or maybe on the face of the balance sheet. So what I'll be taken today, uh, or other than this issue, if time permits, I'll be taking last year whatever as amendment came under the Companies Act 2013 for disclosure only related to the disclosure requirement. So today I'll be taking the issues on Schedule 3 and amendment under the reporting requirement of the Companies Act. So what all I'll be covering today is financial statement, what will be included in the financial statement, then introduction to the Schedule 3, then amendment which is made under the Schedule 3 on 11th October 2018, issues, that is the one which we are forgetting to disclose under the balance sheet, or maybe there is a clarification required for the balance sheet disclosure requirement, issues related to the statement and profit and loss accounts, and other disclosure requirements. Here, please note that only disclosure which is given under Schedule 3 is not to be included in the notes to financial statement. However, under Companies Act, specific disclosures are required to be given in the notes to financial statement. So this other disclosure will be those disclosure which will be required other than Schedule 3. Next, If time permits, after that I'll be taking matters which is required to be given under board report of OPC and small company. If we all know that when board report has been notified under Companies Act 2013, at first for every companies, whether it is small, OPC or big company, everyone has to give the same disclosure requirement. After that, after 4 years, 4 or 5 years, the MCA has realized that in case of the small company and OPC companies, so many disclosures are not required. So they have come up with a breach board report for the small company and OPC company. So that also I have taken. Next I have taken is if ROC feels, or if the government of corporate affairs are feeling that something are not required in the small company, they feel that other than small company, many more disclosure are missing. So in the same amendment, they have come up with the new disclosure requirements for the company other than small company and the OPC. And the new provisions which is given by the ICAI last year was UD. So just one slide on UD I'll be taking. So I'll be starting now. First slide, that is on financial statement. So what is financial statement? Financial statement has been defined under section 240 of the Companies Act 2013. Financial statement related to company includes a balance sheet at the end of the financial year, profit and loss account, cash flow statement for the financial year, and a statement of changes in the equity if applicable. So if everyone is aware about the changes in the equity is applicable only to the listed company and not to the private limited company. Also, in financial statement, cash flow statement is not 1% company and the dormant company. So cash flow company, small will not be applicable to the small company. So now let's small company. Small private limited company having paid up share capital less than or equal to 50 lakhs and turnover is less than or equal to 2 crore, which is not holding or subsidiary of the company, which of public company and not a section 8 company. So kindly note that in case of the small company, it is important that any of the condition is fulfilled, that if turnover exceeds 2 crore or paid up share capital exceeds 50 lakhs, then it will not be treated as a small company, and this is only related to private company, doesn't include public company. Even if public company, then cash flow statement will become applicable and it will not be treated as a small company. Now see, in case of the small company, when first time small company is defined, there was not enough clarification related to the which year turnover is to be taken, whether the year for which you are reporting that turnover is required to be taken, or as per the previous audited financial statement, because few chartered accountants were taking the turnover of the current financial year. However, few chartered accountant was taking for definition of the small company previous financial year. So finally, as on 7th May 2018, the MCA come up with a clarification that for the purpose of the turnover, profit and loss of the immediately preceding financial to be taken, and not the one for which we are making the balance sheet. I have also taken other benefit which is applicable to the small company other than not preparing the small companies. If you know that every company within 60 days have to file the annual return to MCA in form of MGT 7. Here, if you will see that MGT 7 is required to be signed by the one of the director and company secretary. However, in case of the small company, only director can sign the annual return and can file the annual return. So requirement of company secretary is not required in small company. Next is, in case of the companies, board meetings, usually 4 board meetings are required. However, small companies given an benefit that can hold a 2 board meeting in a year within the span which is given under the Companies Act. Next benefit to small company is that CARO, if you will see the basic requirements of the CARO, in case of the private limited company, there are exemption given those private limited A, B, C. If for that CARO will not be applicable. However, in case of the small company, even though the private limited company, that basic exemption is not to be seen. Once it is qualified as a small companies, no other basic exemptions is required to be seen in case of the small company. You can directly avoid giving audit report, CARO and IFCR. So this is the benefit which is given to the small company. And as I told you before, that in case for small company, now new board reporting has been average board report, which is smaller than which is required to be given before. So this was the basics of a financial statement for the companies, small company other than the small company. Now I will take the introduction to the Schedule 3. Schedule 3 provides the manner in which every registered company act shall prepare balance sheet, statement of profit and loss, and notes thereto. Schedule 3 is divided into 3 parts. Division 1. Division 1 is for those company to whose normal accounting standard is applicable, that is Accounting Standard Rule 2006. Division 2 is those company to whose Ind AS is applicable. And on 11th October 2013, the MCA has come up with a new notification where Division 3 has been notified under Schedule 3 to those NBFC companies to Ind AS is applicable. Why I have taken this specifically 3 divisions? Whenever MCA is coming with a notification, it says in the beginning that the notification is applicable to the Division 1 Part A, Division 2 Part B. So there is always a confusion that whether this is applicable to us or not. So here kindly note that Division 1 is applicable to a majority of our client and our companies, and Division 2 and 3 is to other than that. So always while reading notification, make sure that whether it is applicable to Division 1, 2 or 3. Here issues all I will be taking only for those related to Division 1 companies. Schedule 3 not applicable to. As you know that Schedule 3 is applicable to the not applicable to the companies where their act, the company which is governed by their own law, and their law provides the schedule according to which the balance sheet is to be prepared. So thus not applicable to the insurance company, banking company, any company engaged in the generation and supply of electricity, or to, as I told you, to any other company which is being specified under any other act or law, then that will prevail over the Schedule 3. So this is the list of not applicable. Before preparing the Schedule 3, there are a journal instruction which is required to be understand. So first instruction is, if you will see the first preface of the Schedule 3, when notified that whenever there is a dispute between the disclosure requirements under accounting standard and disclosure requirement under Schedule 3. So Schedule 3 specifies that this is all what you have to disclose. However, that disclosure is not the one which is required under the accounting standard, then the accounting standard will prevail over the Companies Act. So if there is a dispute between the accounting standard and Schedule 3 requirements, then always accounting standard will prevail over the disclosure requirement under Schedule 3. So make note that for this I have taken one example in the next slide, where you will understand where this example you will find. Next is Schedule 3. Whatever is given under the Schedule 3 is the minimum requirements. Minimum requirements. It means that if anything else is required other than Schedule 3 under Companies Act or under any other law where you have to give the disclosure requirement, then it is important that other than this you also give that requirement. So this is only minimum required which is to be given. Like you can add lines, sublines, subtotal can be presented, addition, deletion can be done in the financial statement. So kindly note that this is a minimum requirements under Schedule 3. Now, if you will see the Schedule 3, there are many nomenclature used under Schedule 3, like loan received from related party. So wherever under Schedule 3, definition has been not provided for where what to be taken under related party, we have to give reference to the accounting standard. So for definition, associate, related party are the example where you can take the reference to the accounting standard. Now this is a structure of Division 1 of Schedule 3. General instruction for the preparation of balance sheet. Then part 1 is the form of balance sheet. General instruction for the preparation of balance sheet, form of statement and profit and loss account, then instruction for the preparation of profit and loss account, and instruction for the preparation of consolidated financial statement. So this is basic structure of Schedule 3. Friends, kindly note that whenever you are preparing balance sheet, it is very much important that you can bifurcate the assets and liability between current and non-current. Every time there is question arise that whether it is to be taken as a current or non-current. So for that, for the bifurcation, you have to define the operating cycle of the company, or you have to understand the operating cycle of the company. Now, what is operating cycle? An operating cycle is a time between the acquisition of an asset for the processing and their realization in cash or cash equivalent. Here, I'll give you an example. For a company, the operating cycle will be from the time it is acquiring or manufacturing the goods till the time it is sold to the final debtors and the amount is realized in cash. So this is the one you can treat it as operating cycle. If operating cycle you cannot define, then you can assume it to be the 12 months. However, while preparing notes to accounts, it is usually found that operating cycle is not been defined in notes to financial statement. So kindly note that it is very much important that operating cycle is been given under notes to financial statement. Even though it is not taken as a 12 months, you have to take, even it is not taken as a 12 months. Suppose you are taking the operating cycle other than 12 months, more than 12 months or maybe less than 12 months. Even though it is more than, less than or equal to 12 months, notes should appear that company has taken operating cycle as this for bifurcating current and non-current. So kindly make sure that you add to the notes to financial statement regarding the operating cycle of the company. Next issue is, what if companies engage in the multiple business activity? So the operating cycle could be different for each line of business. Such company will have to classify the assets and liability on respective business. So different operating cycle is possible for the different activities of the company. Accordingly, the bifurcation of current and non-current is to be made. However, it is important that you give in the notes to accounts that for which activity you have taken what operating cycle for the presentation of current and non-current. Now I'll start with the issue related to the balance sheet first. First issue is under share capital. We know that we have to disclose more shareholders holding more than 5% of the shareholding. So first question is, Mr. A is a shareholder of ABC Private Limited Company, holding 15% of share as on 1st April 2019. However, on 13 March 2020, he has transferred 12% of his shareholding. So he's remained with the 33% of the shareholding. Now, Mr. A whether Mr. A name will appear under the disclosure requirement of more than 5% of shareholding or not. If you will go with the income tax requirement under ITR 6, where more than 10% of the shareholding is to be given, there it is required that whether the shareholder is holding 10% during the year or at the end, any time during the year, you have to disclose. However, under Companies Act Schedule 3, there is no specific clarification regarding this. So ICAI under its guidance note has given that for the purpose of holding 5% or more holding, date of balance sheet to be taken for each class of this asset. So in this case, Mr. A is holding only 3% as at the balance sheet date, so his name will not appear in the disclosure requirements. Next is the capital redemption reserves. In the past few years, it has been observed that private limited company are also going for the buyback of shares. So maybe due to the tax savings or for utilizing the reserve, company is going for the buyback of shares. So here Amitabh India Private Limited have gone for the buyback of shares, and all the procedures has been completed. Buyback has been done on 1st March 2018. Kindly note that the buyback has been done from free reserve. However, as on 31st March 2020, the company is not ready to transfer any amount to CRR. whether the contention of the company is right. So that is the question, that CRR, company is not ready to transfer any amount to the CRR. If you will read section 69 of the Companies Act, it is clearly given that if the buyback of shares is out of the free reserves, the nominal value, that is the face value of the shares so purchased, is required transfer to the capital reserve, capital redemption reserves. This is usually missed by many of the private limited company. Here the problem is that even though for years, for 31st March, let they have been forgot. However, in the future, whenever they will again go for the dividend distribution or for buyback of the shares, that reserves will not be allowed to be used, because that has to be transferred to capital redemption reserve. So if you will forget to transfer from the free reserve, then that will be used for further dividend distribution. So kindly make sure that the face value of the shares so purchased has been transferred to the capital redemption reserves. Now, next is related to share application money pending allotment. This issue I have specifically taken because there is a disclosures requirement related to the deposits taken by the company. In a recent past year, company has required to file form in form DPT3 for the deposits taken. So, Priyanka Fashion Designers Private Limited has received money from its existing shareholders cum directors, share application money on 1st December 2019. However, the company did not allot the share till 31st March 2020. So almost 4 months has been passed. The company could not allot the share. Neither company has refunded the share application money back. In the balance sheet, the company has reflected the said amount as a share application money received pending allotment. So whether the treatment of the company is right or not. I'll give you the definition of deposit under Rule 21C. So Rule 21C says deposit includes any receipt by way of money, but does not include. As we know that amount received from the bank and financial institution, this will not be treated as a deposit. This will normally be treated as a loan taken by the private limited company. Intercorporate loan will not be treated as a deposit. Here this is important. Share application money received and the shares allotted or money refunded within the 60 days from the date of the receipt of the application money. So if the company received the share application money and within the 60 days the shares has been allotted, then the same cannot be treated as a deposit. However, in our case, we see that 4 months have been passed and still company has not refunded back the share application money. So as per this rule, this will be treated as a deposit by the private limited company, which is a violation of the deposit rule. The company cannot take the deposit since being the private limited company. So these are the all definition of the deposit, which just I have taken for the purpose of that loan from directors, advance received, security deposit received, not related to the question. Now, under the Company Acceptance and Deposit Rule 2014, on 22nd January 2019, one Rule 16A has been inserted, whereby every company other than the government company, that is even our private limited company, shall file one-time return of outstanding receipt of money or loan not considered as deposit under Rule 21C. So those which has been not considered as deposit, like loan from bank, financial institution, directors, etc., those which has not been considered is to be reported. Here for the first time, since it was for the first time, the benefit was the disclosure, the form which is to be filed was only required to be signed by the directors. However, sooner, maybe not March 20 or in March 21, even the auditor is required to be signed form where you have to, auditor has to say that the deposit details given by the company is true and correct. So in our case, since it was not within the 60 days, share application money is not been refunded back or allotted, it is advisable that since it is taken from the shareholders come directors, to show it as an unsecured loan from the director and shareholder and not to show as a share application money. However, make sure that whenever you are showing as a loan from the directors, you obtain the declaration from the director that the same has been from own fund and not from the fund director has been borrowed and again given to the company. So that is also treated as a deposit. So being an auditor, you have to sign that balance sheet. Make sure that to obtain a declaration from the director that the loan is from own fund. Now, what if the company has taken a share application money? It is found that the company takes share application money. However, authorized capital has been not increased to that extent, because they may be not sure that whether we are going to refund it back or whether we are going to issue the capital. So in that case, if authorized capital is not been increased to the extent of share application money received, you cannot show it under as a share application money pending allotment. You have to show under other current liability as a application money received for the allotment of security and due for interest and accrued thereon. So don't show it as a share application money pending allotment. Show it under as a other current liability. Next issue is related to borrowing, long term or a short term borrowing. In this issue, I have not taken related to whether to show as a short term or a long term. The more I have focused on the security. There are always a question whether a particular loan to be shown as a secured or an unsecured loan. So this question is mostly focused on that. So Dia Creative Private Limited have obtained term loan of tenure 60 months. So this is a long term borrowing from a financial institution and have given the director's residential property as a security. So director's residential property as a given as a security for taking a loan from the financial institution. The company has disclosed the same as a secured loan under the balance sheet. See, the important is not from the point of view of the lender. Here the lender is a secured, even though lender has given taken a security of the director's personal asset, the lender is a secured. However, from the point of view of the company has not given own asset as a security. So institute is given in the guidance note that if the company is given own security, that is inventory, property, plant, let it be anything, then only it can be treated as a secure. Otherwise, if it is security given by the third party director, then the same cannot be treated as secure. So in many of the balance sheet, I have seen that it is treated as a secured because the personal security of the director is given. You have to see from the point of view of the company and not from the point of view of the lender. However, it is required that even though you show under the head unsecured loan, under long-term borrowing, you have to give in a brief note that this is been secured by the personal security of so and so person. Even though unsecured, you have to give as a footnote. So kindly make sure that such loan are not treated as a secured loan and has been given as a unsecured loan. Charvik,
Yes, Mamta.
can you see my PPT?
Yes.
Yes, now sorry everyone.
Yes.
Now next question.
What?
Yeah, I can see now. Next question is related to the payable to MSME. If you will see that last year there was huge UN cry that what is to be done in case of the amount required to be payable to the MSME, how to disclose that, how to find out that is amount payable is only related to MSME and not others. So this is question is related to that. Rajesh Innovation Private Limited seeks your advice that in case of the trades payable, amount payable to MSME, what all disclosure required in Schedule 3. Here there was one misunderstanding, or that there was a trade under trade payable as on 4th September 2015 for division 1 on 4th September 2015 already modification amendment has come under Schedule 3 that all trades payable should be given as a payable to the MSME and others. However, on 11th October 2018, MCA has again come up with a notification that under trades payable, you have to give payable to the MSME and others. Kindly note that that notification was related to Division 2. Since that 4th September 2015, the notification was come only for the Division 1. Somehow they must have forgot to do for the Division 2. So on 11th October 2018, they have come up with the for Division 2 the disclosure requirement to the MSME and others. So this amendment was for related to the division 2 and not for the division 1, because for division 1 it was required way before on 14 September 2015. So under trades payable, you have to give the amount of total outstanding payable to the MSME and other than MSME. This was the amendment. Additional notes required under notes to accounts is the details related to the principal amount, interest paid thereon, interest unpaid, along and you have to, here the question arises is there may be the possibility that we are not paying MSME any interest amount. So however, if are you sure that under MSME it is not allowed that you are not paying to the interest, not paying to the MSME. So due to the provision, make a provision under as an interest payable to the MSME and show as a disclosure that this what we have provided for. However, the same may not be payable, since it is not related to the that usually we provide only the amount which are payable. So there is a conflict between the MSME and what usual practice has been followed where interest is not payable. So all these are the disclosure requirement for the MSME. Now the question arises, whom to be treated as a MSME? Only those who are registered as a MSME, or those who has been defined the setting the qualification of the MSME. So it is difficult to find out whether the company has been qualified as an MSME or not. So better to take MSME certificate from the supplier, and those only who are treated as a MSME can be treated as a for taken MSME payable to the MSME. Now before where before, if under MSME Act, before this amendment, there was not required to given the amount payable to MSME. So not before 2015, the company has now the company is required to file a form related to MSME that that this much is the amount outstanding to the MSME. Because of that, before this, we used to give under notes to account that under the head current liability, no separate disclosure is made for the outstanding amount due to micro and small enterprise, since the status of the creditor could not be ascertained. Now, after MSME form required to be filed by the company, whether this note will be sustained, whether still we will be able to give this as a notes to account, I feel no. Once you have filed through notification 22nd January 2019, once you have to file the outstanding amount to the MSME, you cannot say that the creditor's status cannot be determined. You have to determine the status of the creditor, and accordingly amount payable to the MSME has to be given under Schedule 3. So this is given that this note will not stand good. Now the question arises, what exercise to be carried to find out the supplier is a MSME or not. So what we have followed is, we have asked company to send a mail to the your supplier and give the number of time that within 6 days, within 8 days, you give me whether you are MSME or not. If you are not an MSME, then we will treat you as a not MSME, and accordingly we will take you from definition of the MSME. So if company receive the detail from the supplier, we will take it as a MSME. Otherwise, and that declaration for a sample basis, as an auditor, you take it for the major supplier, you take it as a audit documents. Next is related to the provision for employee benefits. So there is always question whether provision for gratuity, provision for bonus, provision for leave encashment, whether to be treated as a short term or long term. So this question is taken for that, whether provision for employee benefits are short term or long term. If you will read a basic Schedule 3, you will see that under a long-term provision, there is no bifurcation given that provision for the employee benefit and other. However, under the short-term provision, the specific bifurcation given as a provisions for employee benefits and other. So first is provision for bonus. Since the bonus is payable next year itself, it is a current liability. So this will be treated as a short-term provision. Next is the leave encashment provision. There will be two possibility for the leave encashment provisions. Is the leave which is been used, which is required to be used in the next year. You take a leave, or maybe company will pay you the leave encashment, that will be treated as a short term. Otherwise, if not available, the detail not available, then it is better to go for the actual valuation for the leave encashment, and accordingly the short term and long term should be provided in books of accounts. Next is related to the gratuity. If gratuity is funded, that is some company you have funded for the payment of the gratuity, that you will pay some amount to the company and then company will pay to the employee, then the amount which is due to payable to that particular trust or a company, then that amount should be treated as a current 12 months within which is required to payable in the 12 months. So that should be treated as a current. Otherwise, that other fund should be treated as a non-current. However, what is to be done in case of the usually in our client, gratuity is provided as a unfunded benefit. We don't go for the any LIC or for the funding. In that case, what is to be done? First, it is always advisable that even though the unfunded, you go for the actual valuation, give your employees details, turnover of your employee, and then actual will give you what to be treated as a short term or what not to be treated as a long term. Actual valuation is also a costly thing. So if even if you are not going for the actual valuation, then see that after after balance sheet date, those who have retired, you know that those who have retired which you have already paid, that amount you can treat it as a short-term gratuity payable, or on the basis of the past experience that from the 10 of the employee, 2 of the employee are getting retired every year. So accordingly, percentage of the gratuity you can treat it as a short-term provision, and rest of the amount should be treated as a long-term provisions. For property, plant and equipment, I have not taken any particular issue, because I just wanted to tell you that property, plant and equipment is a new term MC has notified by 11th October 2018. So the one I am telling you that there were so many amendment in Schedule 3 of Division 1 and Division 2. So for Division 1, one of the amendment was that in case of the fixed asset, the terminology property, plant and equipment has been substituted. Now, why this sudden amendment by the MCA? If you know that with effect from 1st April 2016, accounting standard 10, accounting for fixed asset has been changed to accounting for property, plant and equipment. This amendment was required at that point of time. On 1st April 2016 itself, Institute MCA would have come up with a amendment that now onwards fixed asset has been treated as a property, plant and equipment. If you see some of the balance sheet, in our case only, we have ourselves made the changes from fixed asset to property, plant and equipment. The day itself the accounting standard has been amended. However, MCA did not give any changes in the Schedule 3. It has now on 11th October 2018 from fixed asset changed to the property, plant and equipment. Next issue is related to the capital advance. What is capital advance? The company has given advance for the purchase of machinery on 1st March 2020 and acquired the same on the 1st June 2020. So if we'll presume that the operating cycle of the company is 12 months, so within 12 months the company is on 31st March it was advanced. However, within 12 months the company has taken the possession of the plant and machinery for which the advance has been given. So company has shown as a short-term loans and advance because the plant and machinery is taken within 12 months. Now, whether the treatment of the company is correct or not. What is capital advance? Capital advance are those advance which are typically not expected to realize in cash, and it is converted into property, plant and equipment or intangible assets which are non-current in assets by nature. So kindly make sure that advance is given to the supplier for the purchase of any property, plant and equipment or intangible assets cannot be shown under advance to the creditor in short-term loans and advances. It has to be shown under a capital advance even though the machinery or intangible asset has been acquired within a 12 months of span. So kindly note that this is the major, I will not say mistake, but it is since we know that the balance sheet has been prepared by our articles, we and this disclosures we check. However, we this are the if these checks we make a point or make a checklist of these checks, then this small error we can avoid by making the balance sheet. So kindly make sure that you can even ask your company to differentiate the advance creditors for the fixed asset as a different notes, where you can directly pick up that amount and capital put it under the capital advance, so mistakes for that cannot be repeated. Next is related to the cash and cash equivalent. If you remember, I have starting in under general instruction, I told you that whenever there is a conflict between the accounting standard and the Companies Act, then accounting disclosure requirements under the accounting standard will prevail over the Schedule 3. So this is one of the example of the cash and for that. So cash and cash equivalent, Barbie Toys Private Limited have invested money in FDR with original maturity of more than 12 months. And the same is disclosed under the cash and cash equivalent, whether the treatment is correct. Now, according to Accounting Standard 3, cash flow statement, I'll give you the brief that in case accounting standard 3, they are saying cash equivalent are those balances which is easily liquid converted in liquid investment. If you will see that liquid, and what is defined as a liquid investment under accounting standard 3 is which can be converted within 3 months. Within 3 months, which is 3 months. You can convert into the cash. If you are investing, then 3 months should be the period for which you can invest. So in case of the Barbie toys, the fixed deposit has been invested as a for 12 months. So can they show it as a cash and cash equivalent? Here, it is an apparent conflict between the accounting standard and Schedule 3 requirements. Accordingly, what company can do is, as you know that the company can do the modification in the Schedule 3 requirement. So instead of showing it as a cash and cash equivalent in Schedule 3, company should show it as a cash and bank balance and deposit with the less than 3 months under cash and cash balance, bank balance, show it cash and cash equivalent and other bank balance. Under cash and cash equivalent, show only those FDRs which defined under accounting standard 3, and other FDR which is maturity for more than 3 months, you can treat it under other bank balance. So change the nomenclature on the face of the balance sheet itself and show it as a cash and bank balance. Then under schedule, you can show it as a cash and cash equivalent and other bank balance. So kindly make sure that FDR more than 12 months maturity, don't treat it as a cash and cash equivalent, and don't consider under a cash flow statement as a cash and cash equivalent. So these are all the issues were related to the balance sheet items where there was conflicts or maybe additional disclosure requirements or amendment in the disclosure requirement I have taken. Now next I am taking the disclosure requirement or related to the profit and loss account. Now what is statement of profit and loss account is given that this is only the basic which I am not taking general instruction related to profit and loss account. So first question under the profit and loss account is related to the operating income and other income. There is always a question arising that particular income is to be treated as an operating income or other income. Always any type of new income arises, we first discuss whether the same to be treated as an operating income or the other income. So in case of the Dimple Manufacturing Company, there were two types of the income on a sale of the property, plant and equipment, and other was a sale of manufacturing scrap. See, the sale of property, plant and equipment is not an operating income because it is to be treated as other income. So any time if you are selling fixed asset, property, plant and equipment, the same should be treated as a profit on sale of property. However, if you are a manufacturing company and you are selling crab, then it is a part of your operation, then there it should be taken as a part of the revenue from operation under other operating income. So kindly make sure that such income is treated as an operating income, because bifurcation is required revenue from operation and other income for the purpose of where turnover is to be defined, so many applicability. So this bifurcation is necessary, that whether to be treated as an operating income or other income. Non-operating income, whenever you are kindly note that following points are required. Non-operating income first, non-income net of expense. So any income for which are the non-operating income and for which you have incurred an expenditure, then make sure that that income is you show as a net of amount. You have to disclose the amount income less expenditure, but under non-operating income schedule only itself you have to show the net of amount. Next is profit on sale of foreign exchange. So every time there is a hue and cry that exchange loss is to be show as a, if company is 100% in the export sales, whether to be shown as an operating income or whether it is to be shown as other income, and whether loss is to be shown as under the head of expenses or it is to be negative figure to be shown under a other income. So it is cleared by ICAI that gain or loss on a sale of a foreign exchange or investment, whether the company is 100% exporter or 100% importer, it has to be shown as a other income and not a revenue from operation. And option is given, you can show as a negative figure as a loss under foreign other income, or you can show as an expenditure as a foreign exchange loss under the other expenses. Now expenses in profit and loss account, there is one part as an expenses, and what all are has been included in the expenses is cost of material consumed, purchase of stock in trade, change in the inventory of finished goods, work in progress and stock in trade, employee benefit expense, finance cost, depreciation and other expense. I have given this list what are all included in the expenses, because from this I have taken 2-3 questions. So first question is related to the cost of material consumed and purchases. Now if the companies carrying on multiple activities, like companies also carrying manufacturing activity and also a testing, the question arises what is to be included in the cost of material consumed and what is to be included in the purchases. So in case of the manufacturing activity, all the purchases of raw material is not to be taken as a purchases. However, the consumption of the raw material is separately given as a raw material consumed, that is opening stock, purchase less closing stock. Everything related to raw material will come under the raw material consumed. But however, make sure that in case of the trading activity, only purchases related to goods which are traded has been included in the purchases, and the inventory which are opening less closing stock, that is changes in the inventory, has been given under changes in the inventory. So changes in the inventory related to raw material will not cover under changes in the inventory. Only related to WIP, trading goods and finished goods will be included in the changes in the inventory. This I have taken because this I have specifically taken because I have found that even raw material purchase is included in the purchases, and changes in the raw material is given in the changes in the inventory. Next is related to the finance cost. What is finance cost? Finance cost is an interest expense and other borrowing cost, and gain or loss applicable foreign exchange gain and loss. This is not normal gain and loss. However, if you will go to the accounting standard 16, there is a bifurcation where it is given that what is to be treated as a normal foreign exchange gain or loss and what is to be treated under borrowing cost. So that which are treated as a borrowing cost under AS16 will come under as a net gain or loss under foreign currency transaction. This specifically taken, I am finance cost I have taken because we are paying interest on delayed payment of taxes like TDS or GST or even advance tax. So always there is a question arise whether that expenses is to be treated as a part, if related to the advance tax, whether it is to be treated as a part of the current tax expense or whether it is treated as a finance cost. So institute has come up with a clarification that any interest on shortfall in payment of advance income tax is in the nature of the finance cost. So any interest which we are paying related to short of any tax, whether it is related to advance tax or any indirect taxes, it should be treated as a finance cost. Kindly note that this is we are treating as a other expenses, usually as an interest. Under other expenses we are showing as an interest to interest on late payment of GST, interest on, don't do that. Or you otherwise few of the companies are showing it under the head rates and taxes, so don't do that. Also it is clarified by the ICAI that it is not rates and taxes, it is not other expenses, it is to be shown under as a finance cost and under the interest expenses as a delayed in payment of taxes. And advance delayed in payment of advance tax don't merge up with the current tax. Provision for the current tax should be only for the pure tax and not for the interest, should be shown under the finance cost. Now other disclosure which are not forming part of the balance sheet and profit and loss account still to be form a part of the notes to accounts is first carrying there. If there is a change in the carrying amount of the investment, then such disclosure has to be given that if we know that the short-term investments are to be valued at lower of cost or investment. So if you are making that changes, then such disclosure are required to be given under other disclosure. Payment to the auditor should be disclosed in notes to accounts, that is paid for the audit fees, taxation matters, company law matters, management service and other services, and reimbursement of expenses. These are all not forming a part of the balance sheet or profit and loss account. In auditor remuneration, total amount is given in the profit and loss account. However, bifurcation is required to be given in notes to accounts. Then all, I think this table is not appearing. I will directly take from here. This disclosure is usually missing in the notes to accounts, which is, I will tell you that kindly make that this disclosure is included in the notes to account, that in case of the manufacturing company, you have to disclose the amount of raw material under broad head goods purchased. Then in case of trading company, purchase goods traded. In case of the rendering company rendering the services, gross income derived from the service render under broad heads. And if all together, then a separate disclosure is required. Kindly note that here quantitative details are not required. You just have to give the amount under notes to account, that these are the raw material 1, 2, 3, XX amount. Trading may this only broad head. So these are the two broad goods we are trading in. So this total amount is this, and for the providing the services, if portfolio management service, then show it as a portfolio management service, and other services you have to show as a other services. So quantitative details are not required, only you have to give the amount of raw material and traded goods. Next requirement is import on CIF basis are to be included into the notes to accounts, giving the bifurcation of imported raw material, imported spare parts, and capital goods. Here the question arises is how to derive the CIF value. So the usually if company is taking on FOB, raw material and component spare parts, it is found that the total insurance coverage has been taken, not for the each shipment company is taking the insurance, and also for the shipping freight also total component contract has been entered for particular shipping company, that you will do the shipment. So insurance and freight is usually difficult to find in case of the FOB. So if you cannot give on CIF basis, give a footnote into the notes to account that these are the purchase imports has been done on the FOB basis, and insurance and freight is not possible to derive. So you can give the FOB details of the raw material and all components and capital goods. Next disclosure requirements is the expenditure in the foreign currency. So it is to be given for the royalty, know-how, professional and consultancy fees. Again, next disclosure requirement. These are the disclosure which are again I am telling other than balance sheet and profit and loss account. So should not be missed in notes to financial account. Export of goods on FOB basis, royalty, interest and dividend. These are earning and other income. Here the question arises is it is earning. So if you have already done the export, however, realization is not done. So whether that amount is to be included in this earning. So yes, since it is earning and not actual received, even though the amount is not actually received, total amount exported or earning has been done is to be included in this disclosure. Kindly note that here only amount in Indian rupee is to be given, not in the foreign currency. And also make sure that the detail which you are giving in this notes to account corresponding matching with the director's report. In the director's report also we have to give this amount. However, in director's report we have to give both foreign exchange also and the amount in the in INR also. There is always a discrepancy found what is given in the director's report and notes to account. So kindly make sure that the director's report and the details given into the foreign exchange is details given in notes to accounts is matching. It is advisable that in director's note also you can give reference to the notes to accounts that this is been given into the this note number so and so, instead repeating the amount and making a mistake. The disclosure which I have taken till now was the disclosure requirement under the Schedule 3. However, other than disclosure requirement under Schedule 3, there are many disclosure which are required by the Companies Act to be disclosed under the notes to account. So first of that requirement is a transfer of amount to the capital redemption reserve, which I have already dealt with in one of my issue. So this is the one of the requirement under Companies Act which one has to take. One has to disclose in notes to accounts. Next disclosure requirement is related to the financial statement. So if any accounting standard has not been followed by the company, make sure that in notes to accounts you give that, like example, small company. If you are a level 1 level 2 company, then cash flow becomes compulsory for you for providing. However, if you are a small company being a level 1 level 2 company, then cash flow become optional for you. Then you have to give in notes to accounts that since I am a small company, cash flow has not been given as a part of the financial statement. One of the requirement under Companies Act is details regarding to the CSR activity is to be given under notes to account. So what all are requirements to be given for CSR expenditure is: first, amount required to be spent by the company during the year, amount spent during the year on construction, acquisition of any asset on the purpose other than the amount. Even though 2 is saying amount spent during the year, however, if you will go to the table, it shows that amount spent, amount unspent and total. So you have to give the construction acquisition amounts required to be spent, could not spend, and the total amount. And same goes for the purpose other than above. And if CSR is activity is being done with with the related party, so Tata is giving to the related party to the Tata Trust, then it is to be specifically given that required to be given that the CSR has been done with the related party. So in notes to account, you have to give that this has been done with the related party. So these are all were the issues which we face while preparing the Schedule 3. I have done with this. Now I'll be taking the recent amendment in the Companies Act. So what all are disclosure related requirements or reporting related requirement has been amended in the Companies Act. This is all I will be taking. The first amendment in Schedule 3 on 11th October 2018, which I have already dealt with, is in Division 1 for the fixed asset property plant shall be substituted. Another amendment was very important on 31st July 2018. Board report for OPC and small company has been changed. A breach small board report has been derived for the small company and OPC company on 31st July 2018. Rule 8 provide for the board report of all the companies. Under now Rule 8A has been inserted to giving the reporting requirement for the small company and OPC company. So many reporting requirements which are done away with. So I have taken, we are preparing board report from 2013. So I have taken only those reporting which are done away with. Annual return, we used to give MGT 19 a big annual return for report. Now if the same has been disclosed on the website, you can just give the reference of the website that MGT 9 is given on the website, so no required to again attach to the board's report. If you don't have company's website, then kindly provide as usually we used to provide before whole MGT 9. Numbers of meeting, then director responsibility statement, fraud reporting, explanation for the, sorry for the disturbance. State of company's affair, financial summary of highlights, material changes from the date of closure to the financial year, any directors were appointed. These are all required. This is all what required under for average report. Then any order passed which is affecting the going concern of the company. Then reporting requirement under AOC 2. These are all the reporting requirements which we used to provide in under a director's report of the small company, which are now not required to be given. Is main given is loan guarantee and investment under 186. So if you will see that we used to prepare MB. Charvik, some disturbance are there.
I have closed his mic. So one of the participants' mic was open. Please continue.
Yeah. So if you will see we used to prepare MBP1, a huge headache for everyone, that each and every investment is to be disclosed when purchased, when sold, profit on same, or loan taken, loan given, everything. Now for the small company, this disclosure is been done away with. Then one of the disclosure requirements was any amount was been transferred from reserves. This has been done away with. Then dividend amount is not required to be given. Energy consumption, technology, foreign exchange. This is the main foreign exchange which I was talking about, that has to be given in the board report, has been done away with the small company. These are all disclosure requirements, policy, risk management policy, which we used to give the two big paragraph, how company is taking the risk. Being a small company, two directors, husband and wife, usually there will not, they will feel that there will be no any much, because every transaction has been authorized by any one of the directors. So this disclosure has been done away with. Then next is foreign exchange earning outgo. It has been done away. Now, as I told you that other than OPC and small company, they feel that few additional requirements are required to be included in the board report. So they have on same notification, they have come up with the additional disclosure requirement for other than small company. So one of the requirement is the cost records required to be maintained under 148.1. This was required a way before to be included in the board report. However, now they have realized and they have added on 11th October 2018. The next which they have come up with, that every company other than the small and OPC has to give on what precaution they are taking for sexual harassment of women at workplace. So now kindly make sure that your board report include this note as that I have given the example that what company can write. The company firmly believes in providing a safe and harassment free working environment for its employee. It has a zero tolerance policy towards the sexual harassment and has adopted a policy on prevention and prohibition and reduction of sexual harassment at workplace in line with the said act and rules thereunder. No complaints were received during the year ended 31st March 2019. So kindly make sure that the company has provision, company has a separate mail account where anyone is have any problem related to this can mail to the addressing a particular person, and accordingly so as a the same has been added in the director's report that these are the complaint which we have received and we have resolved. This is a new requirement for on 11th October 2018. Next, there is a change in the CSR applicability. So what to whom CSR is applicable is every company net worth of greater than or equal to 500 crore or turnover of more than 1000 crore or net profit greater than 5 crore. See, before this amendment, it was any of the 3 financial years. So if any of the 3 preceding financial year, any of the condition has been fulfilled, then company has to spend on CSR. On 19 September 2018, via Company Amendment Act 2017, this has been applicable only for the immediately preceding financial year. So only if immediately preceding financial year the condition has been fulfilled, then company is required to spend for the CSR, otherwise it is not required. So in 18, 19, 19, 20, there was an issue that since the amendment has come on 19 September 2018, whether company, what if company is already spent on before 19 September 2018, and what the company has not filed, not spent on CSR. So if company has not spent, then it was not required, and those who have spent can take it as a CSR, even though it was not applicable to the company. So last slide is related to UDIN. Best ICAI has come up with the best practice of generating UDIN, even though it is increasing in our work. However, for curbing the malpractices which were going on between the professionals, that our tax audit report were being signed more than the number of reports allowed to be signed, and fraud certificate were signed. ICAI has come up with a UDIN for a company has to generate the UDIN. So same is applicable is applicable for generating for issuing the statutory audit report under the Company Act. So company auditor has to generate the UDIN, then the same statutory audit report will be taken as a valid audit report. Thank you. Charvik, I am done with.
Questions which I have WhatsApp you. You can just check that.
Just a second. Maria, phone. If the car is purchased in the name of the direct, then same is shown in the asset. Loan is shown in the company book, whether this is shown as a secured or unsecured. Here it is now under Companies Act 2013. You can company, it is better not to purchase the car in the name of the director, pay 3 times RTO tax, or if company is showing it as a still showing it as a car in books of accounts qualified under audit report that the car is taken by the director, in the name of the director, it is not as a company asset. And this will not be treated as a secure loan because it is not the company's asset. There is a dilemma that since you are taking it, if it is not a company asset, still you are taking as a fixed asset under the company's asset, and you are showing it as a secure loan, then there is a dilemma that whether it is to be shown as a secure loan or an unsecured loan. I will still suggest that show it as a unsecured loan. Don't show it as a secure loan. No, the next question is mandatory to provide interest in the financial statement for delay in making the MSME. Yes, it has to be provided in books of accounts. You should provide. You cannot show it as a contingent liability because it is not a contingent liability. It is a actual liability. So you have to provide in the books of account. If any particular line item or balance sheet is not applicable, then it is mandatory to disclose the same of the fair. No, it is not mandatory to disclose the same. However, I will tell you that show each and every item and mark zero in front of that item as a better to show as a zero, because sometimes it is happening that if in the next year something arise or something which was not applicable in the previous year, we usually forget to include in that particular schedule. So better give each and every item of the balance sheet and show it as a zero. Where to disclose the vehicle loans taken in the name of the director asset in the car. This I've already dealt with. Any other question?
No other questions as of now.
Mamta, may I just speak a few words about your issues in case if you don't mind, please.
Yes, please, sir.
Mamta, you said that share application money in case it is pending allotment, okay, and 60 days have gone, you're not allotted shares, then it will be treated as deposit. Now,
Yes.
to my mind, the legal requirement is first thing first. It is not a case anymore that private limited company cannot accept deposits. Private limited companies now can accept deposits subject to fulfillment and following the deposit rules. You have to file the relevant form with ROC and say that I have accepted deposit. So that is one case. So in case for any reason your the share application money is is standing or remaining pending for more than 60 days, treat that as a deposit and file the concerned deposit form. Not DPT3, but probably DPT1 if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Another thing that you said that you'll have to show that as a current liability in case if that particular amount is not allotted. But to my mind, it cannot be treated as a current liability. It will have to be shown as a borrowing.
No. See, I have said that if you don't have enough authorized capital, then you have to show it as a current liability.
But yet it is a deposit, Mamta. It is not a current liability. Even if you don't have enough of authorized capital, okay, yet you'll have to show it as a deposit and not as current liability. Maybe deposit is shown as a current liability is a different thing, but you cannot show it as a creditor, but you'll have to show it as a loan to my mind. Means not typically a loan, but a deposit.
If you will see institute guidance note also, and if you will see that the question was related to the outstanding application money within 60 days. So what do you have to do at that point of time? You have taken the money and you don't have that much authorized capital with you. At that point of time, you don't have any other option than to show it as a other current liability and not a deposit.
Yeah. But you have to follow the deposit regulation, no?
Only if 60 days is not only if it is 60 days is over.
Okay.
If not over, then that question does not arise. That question does not arise till the time 60 days are not getting over. After 60 days, you have to see that this will become deposit, and then you follow the deposit rule.
Okay. And another thing that I just thought was profit on sale of fixed assets. You said that it should be treated as other income, but to my mind, it will have to be shown as exceptional item. Please check.
This also I have checked with guidance note given institute under ICI guidance note. They have given a specific example for the sale of property, plant and equipment. So this to be shown as a other non-operating income or a other income, not a exceptional item.
Usually, okay, chalo, ठीक है. You may be means the usually I have always seen such items are treated as other means exceptional items because they don't appear usually in the balance sheet. I mean profit and loss account usually. And one more thing, interest on advance tax, like late payment of taxes, you said that they should be treated as borrowing
Finance.
cost only, finance cost. But you'll have to take care of this, that this kind of interest, if it is disallowable, you will not be able to actually pick it up from the balance sheet, from the statement of profit and loss account. Okay, so let's say I've paid
for the purpose
for the
you
purpose
can
of
show under finance cost late payment of advances as a separate item if you want to disallow that.
So one needs to take
But you
care of
cannot
that.
show it as a phase of the P&L as a part of the current tax. If you will check that usually
I
the
agree.
interest amount we are treating as a part of the current tax. So that is
I
absolutely wrong.
I do agree. Only care needs to be taken because often you may miss on that.
Yes. So while computation, you have to disallow that amount.
Yeah. So and one more thing, the CSR thing. If you although the provision has been made that profit of immediately preceding previous year needs to be taken. If you see the concerned rule 3 of CSR rules,
They have not made amendment. They have not made
has not been
amendment.
amended. So,
But
so
they have not made amendment there. But if act is always override the rules. So you have to
provision.
go according to act.
Yeah, agreed.
So I have checked that they have not made amendment in the rules. That is where lacuna is there. Yes, that is correct.
So I'm just trying to address that also. Yeah, sir. Thank you so much, Mamta.
Thank you, Mehul sir. Thank you so much.
There's
Any other question?
There's one more question. It is there in your.
There is one question. Even if the operating cycle of the company is less than 12 months, any item which is recoverable or payable within 12 months from the end of the financial year, then the item also need to shown as a current as per other condition of operating cycle. No, 12. If your operating cycle is less than 12 months, then bifurcation of, suppose you take it as 8 months, then bifurcation of current and non-current will depend on the 8 months you have to take it as a cutoff for showing it as a current or a non-current. If it is a less than, you just give a disclosure in notes to account that for our company, the the operating cycle is taken as a 8 months. Any other question?
We can directly speak if there is any question. There's one more question from Neeta. Share application money for which shares could not be allotted, nor this can be refunded. How to show it?
See, if it could not be allotted within 60 days, then it is okay. You can show it as a share application money pending allotment as at 31st March and then refund it back. However, as I told you that if 60 days are over, then either comply with the deposit rules, or if it is from the directors and existing shareholders and the limit specified for the taking loan from the shareholder, you can specify that. Then don't show it as a share application money, show it under a unsecured loan taken from shareholders or the directors, as the case may be.
Mamta, our question is what is to be done in case if it cannot be refunded. Now, if it cannot be refunded, you'll have to transfer that money after 7 years, I guess, to the investors and education protection fund. This is what she wants to know, I think.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get it.
Hello.
Yes.
Madam, you have said that in case of an MSME, the MR letter is to be obtained from the company directors, stating that they have tried to obtain from confirmation from their suppliers. Now, what care has to be taken in case the supplier doesn't have any proper details of the email if they have written, but you'd never know as an auditor that is properly been sent to the concerned person or not? In that case, what precaution you will suggest? Whether MR is sufficient to take the care of, or you need to take more steps to confirm about this all?
Management represent letter will not be sufficient in this regard. You can take for the major, see, always audit is on a sample check. So for the sample creditors, you can take a mail which has been sent to the concerned supplier, or maybe you can ask them to send us register ID letter to them stating that if within 7 days, like we are sending to the previous auditor, that within 7 days, if it is not been received back, then we will treat it as that you are not an MSME. So you can take the copy of that letters with you as an auditor.
No, madam, I am on the question that it is not been suited to a proper email ID at all, because the company want to circumvent that proper position before the auditor. If that is the case, how the auditor will satisfy himself about that it has been properly mailed to the concerned parties?
See, not email ID.
Because
That
mail
is why
ID,
I'm saying
mail,
that. See, not email ID. That is why I said register ID letter post. You can letter to the register office address, right?
Okay.
That is what I said. You can send the register ID letter, and that you can take it as a proof. If you don't, if email, you cannot send the email.
Correct. And secondly, you said about that to determine the turnover position, the previous year's turnover is to be considered into fact. So
For small
companies who are small companies who are registered in the very first year, how do you determine the status of that company?
The first
The
year
very
of the
first
company,
year,
very first year of the company, we should always take it as a small company. However, while filing, if you will see that while filing the forms, ROC forms, if turnover is exceeding 2 crore, they are asking for the company secretary certification. So that is a technical error. However, if it is a first year of the company, you should take it as a small company.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Welcome.
I want to ask one question. Acceptance of deposit rules. I think that is very stringent, no? We have to make an advertisement in paper, and some percentage of fixed capital and reserves, only you can accept the deposits, isn't it? Those rules are still there, no?
Yes. So that is why I have taken that. Usually in our company, we are not following that deposit rules, which you have to RBI approval is to be taken, advertisement has to be given. So that is why alternative in the advertisement, RBI approval, so many deposits compliance to be taken care of. So, and even in the CARO, yes, exactly. And even in the CARO as an auditor, you have to give that whether the deposit taken has been complied with the all deposit rules. So RBI approval
it is very
taken
difficult.
or not. Yes.
I hope
So
those
that is
rules are the same.
given the
That is
alternative that if
very tough, very difficult.
So that is why I've given alternative, better to not to show it as a share application money if possible via the company.
Yeah. Okay.
Viren bhai, those the limits have now gone under the deposit rule. As such, there is no limit. Earlier, it was 25%
there is no limit.
of your paid. No limits have already gone. Like under that was under 1956.
Procedures are to be followed.
Only thing
advertisements
is,
are to be made.
That is statement in lieu of advertisement will have to be given in case if you give taken the amount from close one, like not typical shareholders or directors relatives, but let's say internal like તમારા ભાઈ પાસેથી તમે લોન લે, not ભાઈ typically, but maybe anybody your friend. Okay, let's say you have taken a loan from Mamta, okay, who is not neither your shareholder not a relative also. Then you'll have to follow the deposit rules. Okay, and deposit rules, those guidelines have been prescribed as to how you statement in lieu of advertisement and all those sort of things. Of course, deposit rules will have to be followed and deposit returns will have to be filed. Now, DPT3 is one of the things which we have to file any which ways for director shareholders loans. Okay, but this is an
that percentage is there.
No, to my mind, that percentage is not there, and that insurance was to be taken. And a particular amount was to be set aside as a reserve. Now that is not there for private companies. That has been done away with. But honestly, these rules basically are not much applicable. So even I don't remember much about that. But those limits have gone one, and that insurance thing has gone. Third is those percentages like setting apart that specific reserve, creation of reserve for those deposits. I think that is not applicable to private company, but I may be subject to correction.
And what rules, acceptance of deposit rules, you have to study for this,
Yes,
isn't
yes,
it?
yes. For sure. In case if that amount is a deposit, then see, not only that, let's say you have some what you call deposits taken for a particular thing, and now let's say you've given your property on rent, and you received the deposit. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the tenant has already vacated the property, but the deposit is not refunded for any reason.
Yeah.
Then such deposit would partake the character of deposit under the deposit rules. You'll have to follow the deposit rules.
Achha, that will take.
Because then it becomes, it does not remain.
It is not refunded within a particular time. It is not refunded.
So such trade deposits would partake the character of deposits for the purpose of act, and you'll have to then follow the rules. So, like many property companies, you will find this kind of a position that the tenant is gone. Okay, but the deposits which were taken for the rent are not repaid for any reason, XYZ. And maybe that is an adjustment towards rent, or as the case may be. But the company does not want to pay tax on that. I'm taking a very practical example. So that will be shown as a deposit. So if it is shown as a deposit, then you'll have to comply with the deposit rules.
Okay.
So one needs to be extra careful on that.
Loan from directors, shareholders, or their relatives is not deposit, na?
No, they are not deposits for sure.
For shareholders, there is a limit. You have to check that limit. For directors and relatives, loan is not deposit. But however, for the shareholders, there is an exemption to the private limited company. However, there is some limits which has been prescribed. To that extent, only loan from the shareholders.
Mamta, 100% of paid up capital and share reserves.
And
for shareholders, the limit is 100% of share
so
capital.
for that, you have to check the limit. So you have accumulated losses, then to the extent of only capital, you can take the loan from the shareholders. So that limit for directors and relatives, there is no limit.
We also have
directors and relatives of directors. Relatives of directors.
And you make sure that you obtain a declaration from there that it has been given from own fund and not from the loan which they have taken from some other part. So that is very important now to be taken. Very important to be.
They directly cross. They check the passbook. ये transaction either से बाहर से लिया और loan दिया. Is that?
No. You take a declaration.
Declaration. Okay.
There is a declaration format you have to take from the director that if they are giving a wrong declaration, there is a punishment on the directors itself themselves.
It is
so
that
better
point.
Take a declaration. Yes.
Okay.
Even to add on deposit part, even advances from customers above 6 months, that is also considered as deposits.
365 days.
Sorry, 365
1 year. 1 year. It is 1 year. Yeah.
So that is also a point which can be missed by many of us.
Yes.
But let's say the trade cycle is more than 1 year, then that will have to be considered.
Then
like,
it is allowed.
Shipping company. Shipping
there
companies.
There is an relaxation given for infrastructure companies.
Yes.
Because their trade cycle is larger than 1 year. Okay, maybe like let's say a ship construction company. The ship will take another 5 years to get constructed.
That 365 days are not applicable to the ongoing transaction.
Yeah.
Jarvik bhai, I put up a question in the chat.
I just saw that. The question is, company has taken over a proprietary firm. It is in transport business, but all the vehicle loans are still continuing in the name of the proprietorship firm. What stand we have to take and where to report in the financials? That is the question from SMJ.
Yeah.
See, now for taking the proprietary firm, NCLT approval is, I think, as far as I know, the procedural part, NCLT approval is required. And once that approval has been received, the loan, which vehicle loans, can be transferred in the name of the company if the same is provided to the finance institution or the bank from whom you have taken the loan. So that
Okay.
procedure can be done and the loan can be transferred in the name of the company. And
Mamta,
till the time procedure has been
Ma-
done, you can show it as a loan of the company itself, because now the
Mehul,
takeover means everything, liability is taken over. Now everything of the proprietary firm is of the company.
yeah, everything is taken
So,
over. Yeah.
Mamta,
yeah.
NCLT approval is not required.
Huh, that's why NCLT comes in picture right now.
No. See.
I think now it is required.
No.
But where is the question of NCLT in
For
this?
usual
But now it is
company,
now you, by just the takeover deed, you cannot take over any proprietorship form or partnership form. There is one section in the specific section in the Companies Act where they are saying that even a partnership firm will be treated as a company for the purpose of the takeover. So you have to go for a NCLT if you are taking off any partnership form. I have just maybe 6 months before I have gone through this section. So as far as I know, you need a NCLT approval for the any partnership form or proprietorship form you are taking over.
Can
There
you give
is
any
one specific
reference?
section for that.
No.
Okay.
Mamta, we can discuss. I don't think that is the case here. So basically,
Okay.
those are conversion. Earlier, part 9 was there. Now it is part 3 or something of that sort. And if you see the Spice Plus form, okay, even that provides for conversion of a proprietary company concern into a private company or a partnership form into a private company. So basically, it's not that a matter means I'm just talking about a fresh incorporation of a company wherein proprietary concern is succeeded by the company. That comes under Spice plus form only. But that apart, even otherwise, a running company, if it is acquiring a proprietary concern or a partnership concern, as such, there is nothing NCLT approval required. Only thing that needs to be checked is in case if the assets are still lying in name of the company. But see, one needs to be careful about it. If it is an immovable property, then the title deeds would not be there in the name of company. So to that extent, you'll have to make adequate disclosures. Okay.
Okay.
Earlier, Caro also had I think now it is there. I think Caro 16 has this case that in case if title deeds are not in the name of company, then you'll as auditors we have to report. Okay.
Report it.
That is only in case of immovable property.
But that is only related to immovable property.
Exactly. So let's say proprietary concern is succeeded in the business by company, but the property remains in name of concerned proprietor. Okay. Then you'll have to make
Mehul,
a disclosure.
and Mehul, what about the vehicles which are the title has not been changed?
Vehicles, Mamta already discussed. No, even
Yeah. Okay.
the company is a beneficial owner. Okay.
Yeah.
But the issue in even existing companies who are actually buying vehicles. Okay.
Okay.
But the vehicles are bought in name of the concerned director. Okay. Then the typically loan cannot be shown as a secured loan. So a disclosure will have to be made that this kind of assets which are there are held in the name of concerned directors or as the case may be. They are not in the name of company. Okay, and those loans per se cannot be treated as secured loans because the charge itself is not capable of getting registered because it is not in the name of company.
Okay.
Sorry
Thanks a
to
lot.
interrupt. These are the practical problems for the vehicle loans faced by many of the SME chartered accountants. What I practically understand is that though the loans are being taken in the name of the director, because the director is going to be using that car for future, and there may be a declaration between the director and the company stating that the ownership will always lie with the company, and this is only for the usage purposes. It has been given to the director. Of course, the question of perquisition all will have to be checked in case if the benefits have been given to the director. But if that is so, the declaration on a proper stamp paper has been prepared and kept with the company, stating that the ownership forever it is lying with the company from the very beginning, first day of the purchase, then I think there should not be any difficulty in placing that asset in the company's balance sheet.
Mahendra bhai,
Ma'am,
I'll share with you. I
yeah,
was the other day I took the same issue in my webinar also, and then I
yeah,
had a long discussion with Rajiv Luthia. I think Rajiv bhai is there online. I'm not sure. He was there online.
yeah,
Rajiv bhai, are
yeah.
you there? I think he has exit.
No, he is
Taken
left.
exit. Yeah,
He
he has
left.
left. Okay, I'll just share with you
Yeah.
what he suggested the other day after my meeting. He said that, see, in case if you buy an asset in name of the director and capitalize that asset in the name of company, then when you
Correct.
actually sell it, you will have
Yeah,
to charge GST at the rate of 28%, and you cannot take the
absolutely, sir.
benefit of that concessional rate. I don't know. I don't practice in GST, but
No,
he
sir.
said that you
I'll
cannot take the on WDV. You can charge some percentage. He said that you cannot do that. So one needs to be careful. Like today, you may be benefited. Okay, by it on the road tax part, but subsequently when you sell the car, you cannot take the benefit of concessional rate of tax under GST,
Sir,
and
you
you
are
have to
right.
charge 28%.
You are right in saying about the GST. These are all practical problems when there was a
Yeah, yeah.
VAT, and
See,
and that time the set-off was not available because it was in the negative list.
yeah,
And
yeah,
people
yeah.
usually were saving on the road tax also, and that was planned till the GST was come into effect. So these are all issues prior to the prior to the GST came into effect. Post GST, yes, you may be right, and Rajiv bhai, what he has narrated is also correct, because even the set off you will be losing on the GST part, as well as when you are selling, you will have to bond the GST tax also. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
planning
So one needs to
position
be,
is now changed. Yes,
yeah, one
you
means
are right.
actually I was not aware of this GST thing, but now I'll make it sure to advise clients that you please don't buy in the name of directors, but never buy it in the name of company only.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Ma'am, I have a small question. Ma'am, hello,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes,
Yeah, you
please
can
tell
speak.
me.
Ma'am, actually, specifically designated bank balances of the companies, like for some projects or otherwise, uh, dividend declared are deposited in specific bank account names. So, can we disclose in bank balances cash and cash equivalents?
Cash and bank balance. Under cash and bank balance, so that is a bank account which you open for the payment of dividend, right? So that disclosure you have to give under a bank and bank balances. This is a bank account which is open for the payment of dividend. However, are you allowed to keep the balance in the bank account? After you have to, within 30 days you have to pay it,
Yes,
right?
yes, 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 ma'am. But if anyone cannot encash date due to any some disputes, like beyond the control of shareholders, there are 4 to 5 cases where it is allowed that company will not be blamed for that because of dispute between shareholders or something like. So those bank balances, not in particular of dividend declared, but in some other cases also there are some bank accounts which are specifically required to be opened by Companies Act or other acts. So where we can disclose it?
See, whenever there is a position where company has to open an account for a particular reason, then are you sure that they are allowed to take that fund back in their normal bank account? Whether it is
Mamta,
dividend or for any other
Um,
purpose, it is always to
Mamta, that will be an earmark the deposit, I mean earmark account. Okay, you cannot treat it as
exactly.
an
That is what
equivalent
I'm asking.
account. That is not
No,
cash
no,
and
not
cash
equivalent, but you
equivalent.
have to.
It is cash
No,
and
I
bank
said
balance.
that
These are bank
only.
balance.
That is what I said. That is what that the
Hmm.
question which he is asking, that all these times you are not allowed to take that money back. Whether you are
Yeah,
paying
yeah,
to the shareholder at the end of the 7 years, you have to give to the protection fund. So it is always
yeah,
your
yeah.
bank balance and not a cash and cash equivalent.
Perfect.
so where should I disclose it, ma'am?
as a cash under a, see, you have to change the balance sheet item under cash and cash equivalent. You show it as a cash and bank balance. Then under cash and bank balance, give cash and cash equivalent and other bank balance. Under other bank balance, you show it this bank account and give a disclosure, a footnote, that this bank account represents the amount specifically set aside for this and this purpose.
Okay. Okay.
I think we are extending time. We will be stopping the questions. Is it fine?
Javik bhai, we'll get a soft copy of this, huh?
Yeah, we will be getting. I will be distributing the PPT and the to our group.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. I think we will just formally close the session. First of all, I would like to thank Mamta Seth for taking this wonderful lecture. It was very interactive and it was very important for us in preparing the financial statements of a company. This issue has to be taken care because now the laws against the auditor are getting more stricter as well as for the companies. Again, I would thank Mamta for the lecture. I would also thank the participants for this lively discussion and interactions and the queries which you have posed. Just an announcement: our next webinar learning session will be on Thursday. The topic is Virtue CA for a new norm. Guys, since we have since last 1 month we are in a situation where we are working from home or some other places away from our office, and the situation is seems to be that this will be there for a longer period of time. We have kept this session. The speaker is CA Mitesh Kadira. He has recently written a book on the same subject for CTC. This will be a very interactive session, so I request everybody to join in. It will be on Thursday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. That's all for today from my side. Thank you again once again, everyone. Thank you, Mamta.
Thank you. Bye.